year that's just passed and the journey that you have had throughout your P6 education. Okay, so some think about this webinar is called choosing the right secondary school, right? But I would just like to challenge us to think about what makes a school a right school. Because if there was one right decision, everyone would be choosing that one school. And then does it mean that if you're able to get into that school and you score really high and you go into that school, everybody who has chosen that school, it is right for them, right? So some worries on the ground about choosing a wrong school. So choosing a school may affect the confidence level of the students, depending on the learning pace, not just of the school, because the school is made out of different classes, right? And the student might be mixing with different classmates and friend groups, right? So the learning pace of the school is different. The learning pace of the class within the school is different. The learning pace of our peers will be different. So that would also affect learning pace and stress levels. So I would argue, does that also boil down to the school that you choose? And then the long-term pathway options is a little bit more practical. So considering the school's affiliation, long-term pathway options like JC, poly, or taking the IB diploma might be something that you have to think about, and you will have to think about like 4 to 5 years down the road, right? And then of course the future opportunities that are what kind of doors does choosing this particular school do for you? Right, so I think these are all concerns that we share. And just to show you some numbers, so the 2025 versus 2024 versus 2023 PSLE takers, you can see that for 2024, there was a much larger cohort. So we are looking at that was like the dragon year, right? So that's a difference of about 3,000 students, so a bit less than 10% difference between then and this batch, right? In fact, the 2025 cohort is also slightly lower than the 2023 cohort. So if you have looked at your schoolsfinders.sg or you have looked at all the cutoff points, I'm sure all of you guys, and wait, because now is the end of the day, right? And then you probably had a lot of decisions you made throughout the day. I believe we are all suffering from decision fatigue. So do not make your decision after this webinar, right? Make it in the morning when you're rested. So try to make your important decisions of the day earlier in the day, because we tend to make more sloppy decisions at the end of the day. Okay, but that's for later when I talk about decision making. So I just put some of the highest cut-off points from last year, but I think what is good to look at is your 2024 cut-off point, because of 2024 reflects the 2023 cohort, right? And the choices that they were made. Okay. And then some deadlines to remember is that on 1st December, 4:30 p.m., you have to have your online posting application deadline. Late December, the postings results were released. So this is a huge machine, right? Every year that the ministry has to do, and the schools will have to plan for their Set 1 cohort next year, right? So uh, the sentiment I know on the ground, I think some of you might be past your celebratory phase. Some of you might be in a phase where maybe you're still a bit disappointed. But by Monday, 1st December, hopefully today's session will help you to kind of have an idea what to consider when you're choosing the next steps. Okay. After the posting results are released, usually very quickly you have to report to the secondary school, settle the administrative stuff, and then the school term begins in the new year. So the types of schools or the types of programs for you to consider is your O-level program, which is one most common, just means that there are 147 secondary schools, right? Most would be offering the O-level program, right? So now students are still taking the O-level program. By 2027, the graduating cohort would be taking what is the Singapore Cambridge Secondary Education Certificate. If you ask me what is it, I don't know. We have not encountered papers from there, but likely knowing how things move is that the subject-based banding will come take into effect here lah. Okay, and then we have your IP, which is your integrated program. So integrated program is a 6-year program for that will lead up to the A level or the IB. So this is also something you may want to consider. Is it do you want to take the 4-year at the exam at the 4-year mark, then the A level at 2 years later at the 6-year mark, or do you want to 6 years later take the A level exam? Or the IB exam, depending on which school provides the IB program. And then IB schools, I won't really talk about it, but the IB schools are the ones that you know, like the international schools that maybe some parents might see as a pathway. Okay. Right. So I think more importantly, when we talk about the right school, it is what is the right school for the right child. So what kind of stream? When we talk about stream, it used to be the conversation around this is about O level versus A level versus IB, right? So which stream fits your child is do they learn independently? So actually, you will have an idea from upper primary onwards. Is the child able to like rely, come home and tell you, oh, I have this homework and assignment to do. These are my deadlines, right? So if they learn more independently and they're able to track their progress or they're able to track their homework better, then they would be suitable for the integrated program where it is there's a lot more student directed learning, right? And then how well does the child manage stress? Okay, so and then do they excel with structure or flexibility? So the thing about the O-level program is that it is a longer program, right? So if you think about the school culture and how much time not just school, right? Society in general, like they're able to, we know the structure of this O-level program already. And then flexibility will be more in the A level as well as the IB program, right? So if they excel with structure, and if they cannot, the child is not so good with flexibility or not so good with coming up with their own structure, then a structured program like the O-level program would help. Not saying that IP does not have structure. There will still be, of course, it is very structured, especially with the IP schools that have been around for very long, right? So they have really good structured programs, just that it is if I just simply talk about textbooks or talk about help being rendered outside, right, like tuition or looking for teachers, then O-level program might be easier, or IP program with a longer history. Okay, and is the child going to be motivated without exams? So with the IP leading to A-level or IB program, there are exams, right? But there's a lot of like WA and assessments leading up to the exams, and then they all have different weightages. So if there isn't that O-level exam or the large weightage end of year exam, is the child able to check in on their own progress independently? Okay, so all right, so here it's, of course, how to make the best decision. Um, we put the word best over here, but to be honest, I am this random person on the internet, right? And I'm here speaking to you, just sharing a little bit about my knowledge and how all these years speaking to parents on the ground, the kind of decisions that can be made, right? So I would think the best decision, I don't know who you are or how your family dynamics is or how I do not know the child. So I believe that the community that surrounds the child, including the child themselves, will have to make this decision. Okay, but that being said, just to let you know, what you should be considering is for example, the scholarship pathways, the portfolio development that the school will be able to provide, right? Like what kind of support will the school be able to provide? Okay, the culture is very important. So do you think your child would be able to thrive better in the co-ed school or a or not a co-ed school, right? And then the school environment, CCA opportunities. So not all schools will have CCAs that maybe your child is interested in. I have heard of stories where for example, the school didn't have a chess club, but then the student was very into chess, and the student managed to gather five friends, and then they play chess, right? And then so you have stories like that if you're, I do believe that there are paths that the student can make for themselves, lah, right? Distance and travel time. Remember, this is like 4 to 6 years of life. Like if it's a 3 hour, 2 hour commute to and fro, what does that mean? What can you do about travel time? And then does the child have any learning needs that will need support for? And then what are the subjects combinations that are offered? So, for example, some schools may not offer the G3 for the subject that you want. So it is important. There are so many schools, right, to find out what is it that the school emphasizes, what the school culture is like. So hopefully we have been to the open houses. If not, like let's say if you find yourself in a position where you have been to the open houses, and unfortunately those are the schools that you aren't able to get in because of your cutoff point, it will help to do a virtual open house of the school, or even really just travel down to the school yourself to take a look, and before making any form of decision, especially if it's a new school you haven't seen before. Okay. So these are just what I just said, right? So the last bit is what kind of, I think we need to think about what do you prioritize? Okay, is it the academics that you prioritize? Is it the school culture? Is it travel time? Is it the personality? Actually, if you can have this checklist and you know what you prioritize, you can somewhat make your choices already. Okay, so how do you rank your 1 to 6 choice? So it really depends. So the first thing I would advise is to avoid choosing the school based on the school reputation or the brand name for sure, right? But we have heard we have heard stories, okay, or I personally have heard stories, and you could have heard stories also where, school student goes into supposedly dream school because of a good cutoff point, but then after that, maybe not thriving in the school because the culture was not good fit, right? So there are this one I would like to caveat first. You need to know your risk profile, right? And we believe that it needs to be a decision that is made with the child. The child needs to be part of this decision. Okay, so I'm here to share what I see and what I hear. So there are parents who actually have higher risk tolerance together with the child, and they will choose aspirational schools that they have to kind of reach for, especially if they are thinking, oh, maybe the cutoff point will change a little bit. I'd like to highlight that this is a placement uh, test, right? So since it's a placement test, it really depends on how popular the school is. So I think there are some misconceptions where parents and students think that, oh, the school is the one who sets the cutoff point. That is not true. It actually depends on how many students apply to that school, right? So if it turns out that that neighborhood happens to have an influx of many people moving into that neighborhood, and then the particular school A, everybody would like to prioritize going to that school because it is near their house, then that school will have a higher cutoff point if the neighboring residents have higher cutoff points. So it is not that the school sets it, it is just that they see, oh, okay, remember there are like about 147 schools, right? And then think about, it's a numbers game. Think about each school has about 250 students per cohort, right? So they're trying to fill, they have 250 places, okay? And then that gives you about 36,000, high 36,000, and then you have about how many people who are trying to get into what school. Remember to account for affiliation also, because the school will have to give some spots to the affiliated members, right? So you have to think about your risk profile, and remember that it is not that it is a set deal that now I know the cutoff point for next year. No, no, no. It depends on now this cohort. I think those who have older siblings who are already in secondary school and have done this, you will know that it actually just depends on right now, right? All 38,000 of us, which schools are we applying to? Okay, yeah. So I would personally advise the conservative measure, chunk it into two things. Okay. So your AL fits your COP, you have your cutoff point, you have your choice 1 to 3. So you chunk first three and last three. Okay. Don't like waste your choices. All right. So your AL fits within this, then you put your preference, the one that you want the most, as one. All right. It comes, if you have not seen or been to the school's open house, visit the school's website, read about them, find out about their CCA. So usually now is good lah. There's a lot of there's everything's on their website. If you did not make it for the open house, right? If you want to be a little bit more intrusive, you can go all the way down, see the travel time, check out the bus routes that go there, the MRT routes. Remember, this is something that will affect the experience of attending secondary school. Okay. We will have a Q&A session at the end of this. So do keep your questions for later. Okay, so I just wanted to also share that, before I talk about Sec 1, that as we conclude the PSLE year, I think it's important to reflect on how it was. And I think this whole process of, okay, by Monday, I need to, by 1st December, I need to choose this school. It is a decision-making process that mommy, daddy, and student should all be involved, okay, together, because it is like one of the, or maybe the first major decision that has to be made, right? So many years of speaking to parents, I think we can reframe our mindset about this whole thing. That if it has been a disappointing experience, we can talk about, what was it that we expected. Sometimes life doesn't go as we expect, right? And then where do we move from here? So I think as an educator and then as a parent also, it's about modeling how do we move forward from here? How do we develop resilience? Because you hear many stories where students may not have gotten into the school of their choice. There are many dream schools, but then when they're in the school that they finally go to, they thrive, right? And I've heard stories where and students go to what is branded and what is taught, and unfortunately, they stumble, right? And it caused their confidence to be affected. Okay, but of course, what happens next? Oh, I had a friend who, took A levels for the second time and then managed to get into a very good university of his dreams, right? So I think more importantly, the reason why you may feel disappointment if you're feeling that is because you had goals, you had expectations, and that's a very important skill to have, right? And then when you have the goal and you have the expectation, you work towards it, right? And what's more important is the habits that you formed along the way as you work towards your goal. So it's not like you meet your goal already, then what now? Or you didn't meet your goal, then what now? No, you have managed to develop habits. You know what works, what doesn't work, right? Hopefully you have a more organized table. You have learned how to timetable when you need to do your revision, and these are all important skills to bring you forward. Okay, so I thought I would share a little bit. I think it's good to wrap up the PSL year and then bring our students through this decision-making process. So moving on to what we can expect in secondary 1, right? So for secondary 1, there is an increase from your EMS and your mother tongue to now more subjects. Okay, there's going to be a more complex timetable. So some schools have a 10-day timetable, 5-day, 8-day, right? Very, very interesting, just to keep our brains on our toes, keep us on our toes. Okay, then there is also home-based learning, right? So a lot of self-management in that respect. So taking notes, like even a skill like looking at a whiteboard and being able to take down the notes, do we have that? Right? If you are you able to are you still looking at one letter, writing down one letter by one letter, or are you doing that process of reading the entire sentence, processing it, going into your notes and then writing it down? Okay. That being said, handwritten stuff, handwriting versus typing on a computer has actually shown to help the student process better. Okay. And then CCA, right, is now mandatory. And then you need to learn how to balance between quite a lot of things that are going on. CCA is going to be a huge part, okay? For English, math, and science, let me just go a little bit deeper into the academics of things. So for English, right, I think what students may be familiar with might be letter writing. Okay, let me just bring up my notes about this. Okay, so unlike P6 though, in Sec 1, they will have to memorize the format for different formal and informal letter writing. Okay, and then this is largely open-ended, right? And then essay writing now, there's a lot more open, free form. Okay, and then they'll be introduced to personal narrative and also expository writing. So, and then there's a new component known as summary writing, where students will need to refer to the comprehension passage and identify the key points. Okay, so students will need to be able to paraphrase, make inferences. So a lot of more inferencing is done under English now. Okay, for mathematics, I'm myself am a mathematics educator. So it's back to basics, it's back to numbers. So usually what I see is that students do very well at Sec 1 for mathematics at the beginning. And then when we start to pile on algebra, that's when we need to make sure that there is consistency. Okay, so Sec 1 and 2 are foundational building blocks. When you start with numbers first, make sure your fractions, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division are all okay. All right, then you can move on in order to learn all the algebra and algebraic manipulation. Okay, for science, the depth of topics will increase. So usually you will do, depending on your choice, as you will do bio, chemistry, and physics, right? There's either combined science or you will do them separately. So for example, some schools will start with physics, some schools might start with chemistry. Okay, and then move on to either the other topics, right? So it's broader, but at the same time, it is deeper. So the analytical inference and processing skills are now at a higher level at secondary school. So revision within the week is very important. So I think the main thing I always tell my students even now, and I think it's more important as we go into secondary school, is that your memory works like that. In 24 hours, you will forget everything. When you learn something new within 24 hours, you forget something. So that personal revision and self-management is very important. Okay. Okay, so just a quick one for how do we support our child. So with the new environment, figure out the bus routes or the MRT routes, and then speak to the child about their school environment and their friends. Some frameworks to take ownership. So frameworks could be really just, your whiteboard, physical homework trackers, physical habit trackers. I think these are important skills, probably already doing in primary now. It'd be good if students you can take over in secondary school. Okay, and I think open communication, of course, we all would love that. The peer group will be very different in secondary school. So I usually would advise parents, get to know your child's friends. Yeah, okay. Then we have your life skills, and then staying engaged and supportive throughout their secondary life. So I think just to quickly wrap up over here, Um, so it's going to be a transition time, and I think firstly you have to make that decision, right? And so some tips about making that decision, we mentioned that already. I think um, I would like to first help us to reframe. I think more importantly, when we reframe our thinking and think about what we are thankful for and what we have gratitude for, that helps to reframe and put everything into perspective lah. Yeah, because I sense a lot of anxiety and frustration, um, mainly from parents, to be honest. And I think sometimes our students are not ready, and they don't see this as this is actually a really very important decision. And students, if you are listening, it is a really important decision and you need to be part of it. Okay. And I believe that the parents and educators have put in their utmost effort in order to help support the child. And we, in this journey forward, we really wish you all the best. And I truly, truly believe that, as we have hope in the growing years and the years to come, the child will definitely excel. Okay, so for parents who are still seeking support, there are online forums that also you can join. I think it helps to listen to stories from other students who have already gone through the system. It helps to listen to stories from other parents who have already done this decision-making process in order to widen our perspective a little bit. And then, of course, in terms of just the neuroscience of decision-making, I think as you take, we are probably suffering from decision fatigue because we have so much information coming in, right? And I think you attending this talk, you probably attended other talks, and then you're going trawling the online forums in order to find out more information. There's actually a lot to take in. I think the child should also be involved in this decision making process, and definitely there will be some decision fatigue. So if you can, just a very quick tip: don't make it now, don't make it at night, make it after a good rest, make it when our brain is at its optimum best. Yeah. Okay, and we'll have Coleman take over.
My parents, it's me again. So we're actually gonna open the floor to the Q&A. Feel free to drop your questions into the chat. Lynn, can I request for you to enable the chat for everyone, please?
Yes, correct. I will check with the meeting chat group chat. Yes.
Right. So while waiting
Oh,
for the questions to stream in, let me just add my 2 cents. So after hearing all these steps from Ling, I think one thing becomes really clear is that the Sec 1 year can feel like a lot for students. There's new subjects, there's a faster pace. Students are expected to be more independent. And of course, there's the higher academic expectations as well. And that's usually where the gap happens. So many P6 students, they enter Sec 1 feeling confident. And then they suddenly realize that the content is very different. The workload jumps, and the support that they used to have isn't really quite the same. It's not that the students aren't capable though. It's just that it's a bit hard for them to get the new structure right early enough. And by the time term 2 hits, they're already playing catch up. So to help with that, we've actually put together our Sec 1 Headstart program. It's something that we've just refined over for the past few years based on what actually works for students making this transition. Lee, can I trouble you to just like briefly skim through the schedule for them? Yeah, don't have to worry about the dates because at the end of the slides, there's actually a QR code where you can slowly take a look at the schedule. Yeah, and then the last slide with the tutors. I think you can leave it there while we wait for like the questions to come in. Ling, I think you can start with you can
is
continue.
a 1 point buffer considered comfortably below COP? If I understand you correctly, it's for example, if it's 13 and the COP is 13 and then yours is 12, yes. Okay, I say yes very confidently, but at the same time, remember it's also a popularity contest. You have to think about how popular that school is, lah. But I personally, looking at the numbers, it's a smaller cohort for this year, so it should be safe. Yeah. So safe schools, usually we would say, oh, 2 to 3 points. But I think if you're comparing to the 2025 data, I would think so. Yeah, I think everyone else can. Yeah, okay. Should we be looking at 2024 cutoff point instead? Um, so if you, it would be, I would say 2025 is a more punishing year because of the dragon year, lah. Yeah, so the 2024 cutoff points will help. At the same time, I'm not here to say, oh, confirm can, or yeah, confirm these choices are good, lah. So I think there are also Facebook groups where, we can have a discussion about this, in terms of your uh choices, right? So do you value the proximity more, or do you have you researched on these schools? So I can't really advise on school to school, yeah. But for program, let's look at this. Can I share more about the IB program? How does it compare to IP level, and what are the pathways to local universities? Um, so the IB program, compared to the IPA level, is more all-rounded. So they have to take things like a theory of knowledge, right? A bit more, not say a lot, but more humanity. So there are more subjects when we look at the IB program. Okay, so let me just take out my notes. So for at the end of the day, lah, right? They study about 6 subjects across different disciplines, and then it is graded on a 1 to 7 scale. So that's for IB program, right? Whereas for A levels, it is more A, B, C, D, right? And then to E scale, and then you have your H1, H2, H3 papers. So for I would say if students enjoy inquiry, the IB program actually may suit them more. And then for Singapore, you can actually go and look at how the schools grading for or their performance for the IB program at the end of year 6. I think they actually have a good. In fact, I hear it more and more. So parents are choosing that more and more, and uh, it is not. It is a good program to consider, lah. Yeah. Choosing school with COP same as AL score as first choice, is it risky? Uh, Sorry, I don't. So if I choose the school with a COP same AL score as first choice, how about an expert lady? Okay, let me answer this question. Child perform unexpectedly poorer for PSI. Is there a chance to transfer in Sec 1 or Sec 2 to Dream School? Um, I have not. I have heard of uh, O-level stream to IP stream within the same school. I have heard of G2 to G3 or G1 to G2. To transfer schools, right, I think you have to have a very strong reason for appeal. So academically, the child must be able to do well. Then, yeah, okay. Oh, where did I get COP for 2025? You can get it from Schools Finder. So MOE actually, if you go to MO, wait, will actually give quite a bit of, or you can go to this one as well, sgschooling.com. Let me put there, sgschooling.com. And then from there, you can also go to MOE. They can also help you out with Schools Finder. And then you can search by schools to see 2025 if you have already narrowed down your school, lah. For schools with affiliation, is there a fixed number of spots given to students from the affiliated schools? So it depends on the school, yes. So I don't have the insider information, like, oh, how many percent we allocate, but so some school culture, I've heard that they will just accept all students who apply who are affiliated. Yeah. But if they're within the cutoff point, yeah. Does the posting system differentiate IP choice over O level first, like all IP schools? This one I will have to do more research on this question. Okay, so for the questions that, let's say, I find them like, oh, okay, I need to be able to go and find out more, okay, whether it be research from my colleagues, we will take into consideration these questions, and then we should be able to come up with a post on it in our social media. Yeah, right, Coleman,
Yes,
for
absolutely.
the
I'm
questions.
taking note of the questions now, actually.
Yeah, so we can save all these questions. So there are some that I'm not like the most expert on, so I will not I will defer to my secondary colleagues. If AL is 10 and COP is 10, Series P is 10 for putting this as first choice, is it risky? I think that is all right. At the same time, I have um, some parents who may not want to, we may think that that school for some reason is very popular this year, and then if the COP might go up because there are more students with low with better, lower AL scores and then trying to get in. 1 point over the COP for 2025 or 24, even worth a try. Okay, so for these kinds of questions, right, I feel like uh, you may need to crowdsource all the information, right? And then make that decision. So personally, if it's 1 point above, I would see it as a risk. But then that's because I'm very conservative, right? I want my first choice be something that I definitely can get into. Yeah, but of course, even within my family, right, close, we're discussing every year. We have a very close relative who, will be taking the PSLE. So even we differ in our views, right? So my sibling is like, oh, we reach. Yeah, can confirm drop. Then I'm like, are we sure? And then he puts that in a forum, and then he asks complete strangers. But I think at the end of the day, it is a lesson in decision making that we can make together with our child, where you know, we have all this information, then what do we do with it? Yeah. So I'm not here to say, oh, confirm can, confirm cannot. But I do think that this whole idea of, talking to people and then finding out and then finally making that decision, that is a very important process that everyone will eventually have to go through. Yeah. Whether it's about this or not. Okay, let me see. AL8, if first two choices are IP, COP 7, 8, 3, 4, and O level 7 to 9, what are the chances? Mm, so I'm not sure if you want to. So some I have heard they would go for PG, the postings, the O level instead, and then try to aim for IP after that. Yeah. So I hope that's answered. How does Overmarked manage IP students of different schools running different curriculums? Coleman, correct me if I'm wrong also, okay? I think I do believe we have some school clusters for I'm not sure if the schedule would show that.
We
Yeah.
do
So if
have
they have
school
different,
classes.
right? Yeah. But at the lower secondary, actually, it's pretty foundational. So I would say for mathematics, right? Um, even if it's a little bit off, it will follow a certain uh order, right? It could be Yeah, it could be that for science, sometimes the order differs. So we do have some school classes. Yeah, Coleman, right? Yeah,
Yeah, it does.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, but I think you can check out our website and then ask our enrollment site about this information.
Sorry, just to add, right? So the parent who's asking about IP curriculums, like how different classes have different IP curriculums. So our website might not necessarily reflect, for example, this IP science class on a Tuesday at Bukit Timah is tailored to this school. But internally, we do take note of which class is tailored to which school. So I would say that the best solution is to actually give our admin hotline a call. Let them know what school your child is in, and they will suggest accordingly. So if there's an appropriate school cluster for that curriculum, they'll advise you towards that timing.
Mm. Um, if you're read in the forum that if your choice of your first school did not meet the school COP cutoff point and met second choice of school, chances yes it is. So we call it tiebreakers. So that's why if your first school ranking you did not get it, and then you and someone else are vying for the last space, that's when there's going to be a tiebreaker. So the other person who chose that school with as a first choice versus me choosing that school as a second choice, and that's the tiebreaker, meaning it's the last placement. So again, it is how popular, right? It is because there's a set number of spaces per school, and then they will bring in the one who chose it as first choice. That's why the first choice is very important, because I know there are some people whose strategy is to, oh, the first choice we reach, and then never mind, I confirm get the second choice. That could work, but that is me as a decision maker taking the risk that the second choice is not confirmed about space one. Yeah. So there are those schools of thought, right? But we cannot know. It's really like trying to predict the how many students are going to be applying to that school. Yes, correct. Thank you for sharing that. So actually, our MOE website has a lot of this information. Yeah, so this one, so the thank you for sharing that in the group chat. Yeah. So I actually think that, I mean, we usually run this as a webinar, but I feel like sometimes as a forum it helps, because sometimes we have parents who have, how Coleman can consider next time. Because when parents share resources, it really helps, especially when they have. So I think there are some Facebook groups, but of course sometimes it becomes a place where sometimes there's a bit too much negativity. But I think that as you know, a society, we can help to encourage each other and give each other tips lah. Mm. Okay, we'll continue to keep the chat open for questions. If there are no further questions, we'll still continue to be here. Yeah, so thank you so much, everyone, for your time. Uh, uh, Congratulations to be right for the conclusion of primary school. Then as your child moves on to the next phase in life, and the student moves on to, and students who are listening also, I really wish you all the best. And I believe that as long as you focus on habits and moving forward, you will definitely get further ahead. Okay, I'll be here continuing to answer questions. Yes.
Right, I have something to add. To the parent who was asking about, like, Facebook group, Facebook communities where they can share resources. We actually do have a WhatsApp community. So we do have like an announcement page where we'll share like important key dates or any revision events that we have. But we also have like separate groups for like parents of P4 kids, P5 kids, and P6 kids where they can like chat, share resources with each other. So no pressure to join, but I'll be sending over a link. If anyone's interested, they can like just check it out lah. Okay, sorry, Lee, you can continue the Q&A.
Sure. Does the posting work by all AL4 I've selected first, followed by the other ALs? Uh, okay, so we are saying that if I'm a school and I receive like let's say I have 250 places and I have 251 places, then yes, I will be the cutoff point is always the first thing that is looked at. Does HCL matter for priority or tiebreaker for non-SAP school? I believe for non-SAP schools it is not. Uh, but there is they say it's computerized balloting. So that one I'm not sure what the algorithm is there. Yeah. COP is 11, you have 10, but place school A as a second choice, while another school with 11 place school A as first choice. Who will be given priority? Wow, that's a very interesting question. Wait, let me see the tiebreaker thing, whether it was considered. If I'm not wrong, the cut-off point matters more. Yeah, that means because so for the student who is asking about your COP is 11, you have 10, but play school A is second choice. So wait, sorry, let me turn that around. That means the COP is not 11, the COP is 10. You get what I mean? Because you are the last. If you, let's say there are so many places, right? Then so far, it's 9, right? Then there's a last place to be vying for. Your COP is 10 versus someone else's COP is 11. Then yeah. But that's actually a very interesting question, whether the choice matters. So from what I know, COP actually, not COP, your AL score actually matters first. Tiebreaker is done if too many L8 for say 10 spots left. Yeah, correct. So it could what we are, we see from the MOE website that it becomes computerized balloting. Yeah. So what is prioritized first? And then I think, sorry, after choice order of schools. So the tiebreaker one is the citizenship, right? And then after that, the choice order of schools, then the computerized balloting. Okay, but the better score will be posted first lah. Yeah. So for the student who's asking about the COP 11, so it won't be COP 11 because if you are buying for the last place and you are COP 10, the COP for that school will be 10 for this year. Mm. So COP is like if all of us, 38,000 of us decide to collude and say, oh, okay, come, let's all move, go to this school, then that particular school COP is going to be the highest for 2025. You got what I mean? So maybe I come out of the school and I say, oh, this is teacher Ling school, and then you're all I somehow managed to be a mega influencer, and then 30,000 students apply to teacher Ling school, right? Then my COP is going to be 4, and I'll be the ranking COP first place for next year. Yeah. IP versus O level. Okay, yes, I can elaborate more on that. So I think so for the IP stream, but they are both preparing you. Okay, so for IP stream, I like to think of it this way. It is a 6-year program, right? So ultimately, year 1, year 2, year 3, all the way to year 6, they're preparing for the A-level program. The O-level program, or it's not for the students, they're going to take the Singapore GCE Cambridge program, Singapore Cambridge exam. It is a more structured program, but we are preparing you in 4 years, right? So for IP, what I've heard is that it's a lot more independent study because the O level is like the textbooks are already very clear. There are so many TYS. So whereas for IP, there's like more group project work. So for example, I've had schools where I've heard of from students where their WA is for that term is just a group project, right? So the whole is it's a group project that will determine how many percent of the mark. Yeah. So I would say it depends on how independent the child is in terms of studying. So if the child is very good at independently studying, coming up with a structure for revision, IP is actually good. So that would be good because then you're looking at A-level program, right? And you have 6 years to prepare for it. Versus an O-level student where, okay, you're done with the O-level, then after you have 2 years to prepare for your A-levels. Yeah. So I think ultimately it boils down to, I think it also depends on the school culture. So if you're really, decided on the school, and the child can get into the IP program, and the child is actually has pretty good habits already, or will be able to thrive in a flexible environment because they have their own structure, then I would say go ahead and go for IP because it prepares you in 6 years, right, for your A levels. Of course, there's the risk. Some people will say, "Oh, but I only have the A level exam. I do not have the O level. Then how?" But I would always say, then if there are many paths, and it just takes a longer time for the student, lah. If they would like to take it as I mean, there are many paths in terms of private candidate or what, but I have seen good outcomes. Yeah, either O levels or A levels program. Mm. Okay. Oops.
Okay,
All
parents,
right.
we'll just wait like 1 more minute to see if there are any last minute questions. Otherwise, we're gonna wrap things up.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Yes,
Oh,
I think if parents, you can look at the chat and also the replies. I think that will also help to allay some of our fears.
there is a
Also,
question.
questions. Yeah. Sorry.
There's a new question.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. Because I can't go back to my Zoom. Let me see. That's affiliation to Yes. So, affiliation to JC does help. If you look at the JC scores, they will take in their affiliated schools first. So, I mean, when before Overmark, when I was teaching secondary school, I have had students where the affiliation kind of helped them a lot. Lah. So, actually, your secondary school choice, you may also want to take a look at the affiliation to what JC. Okay, all right.
Okay, if there are no more questions, then maybe you can wrap things up. Okay, thank you, parents, so much for taking the time to listen to us, share more about our insights. If you guys have any further questions, feel free to drop us a text either on the WhatsApp community. The link is in the chat, or you can look for us on Instagram or TikTok. Our Instagram handle is overmarked_primary. So yeah, I'll just leave it in the chat as well. So yeah, if there's any questions, feel free to drop us a DM. We'll try our best to like help with the inquiries. Okay. Okay, I think we are done. Yeah.